You know, there is really no overstating the importance of what's going on behind that window of the Oval Office right now. The president is meeting with a North Korean delegation that includes the second highest ranking official in North Korea. It's Vice Chair Kim Yong-chol, who runs the intelligence agency there. This has been going on for the better part of close to half an hour right now. And those are significant developments in and of themselves here as we set the stage, presumably for an exchange of a letter to the President of the United States from Kim Jong-un, where there's interest expressed in meeting, after all, despite all the bumps of late, to the Attorney General under Bush 43, Judge Alberto Gonzales. Alberto, very good to have you. I mean, you know what it's like, and you go in that room, and it's a very august room, no matter how many times you go there. Of course, this the idea of just being in there talking to the leader of the free world. It can be intimidating, I guess, for any delegation. But they're setting the stage for something. It's all about setting the stage for something, isn't it?
Well, no question about it. You know, given the history with North Korea, I think still today, I think it's more likely than not that our hopes will exceed what ultimately comes out of this. But I will say that we have a different kind of president who does things in a different kind of way, and we may get a different kind of result. And I think this is a good first step, and hopefully I'm wrong in terms of we'll achieve something that will result in everlasting peace on the Korean Peninsula.
You know, we haven't been this route before in quite some time. The last time a similar to North Korea was when Bill Clinton was president. I had his trade negotiator at the time with me a few minutes ago, Attorney General, and Bill Richardson was telling me the one thing he learned is that the North Koreans are very wily. That's probably an understatement. That deal fell apart shortly after it was made. The same under the Bush administration. So what do they do here to make sure it's not a trifecta where we get kind of hoodwinked? You know,
I don't know the particulars or the details of what a good agreement would look like. Obviously, we need to have the nukes removed from North Korea. I think their number one objective would be to have America off the Korean Peninsula. Whether or not that means a one-on-one trade-off, I don't know. What it does require is a level of trust between the United States, North Korea, and I think China is a very important player here. And obviously, verification on both sides is extremely important. So, you know, these are all the details that have to be worked out by both sides going forward.
You know, as a former Attorney General, I think these things are legal documents in the end, besides just political ones. And everyone has to honor the letter of that agreement. The North Koreans in the past have not, whether it's the present North Korean leader's father or his grandfather before him. And I'm just wondering then how you make that happen, how you get them to honor that agreement, get them to follow that contract. Nothing like that is going to be signed here. Maybe it might not be signed and ready whenever they meet next month, if it's as soon as next month. But how do you make sure they follow through?
When you're talking about executive agreements directly between the leaders of two countries, how those can be enforced without, you know, the cooperation or the involvement of, say, our Congress, for example, or an international body like the United Nations, it's very, very difficult. With respect to executive agreements, quite frankly, if it's simply a pure executive agreement, the next president could theoretically rescind that agreement. So, yeah, I think you asked a very important question. How do you make sure that if, to the extent we are able to reach an agreement with the North Koreans, how do we ensure that they follow it? And, you know, I guess that's something that this president's going to have to wrestle with.
You know, if he does succeed in bringing the North Koreans ultimately to the table and extracting concessions from them, it will completely change the way we go about making deals, right? There was a lot of bluster and a lot of in-your-face approaches here, to say nothing on trade and everything else. And yet it's brought this moment. And the threat of concessions have brought some countries to blink and rethink just how far they go. Not all. But the approach is very unlike any of his predecessors. What do you think?
Well, as I said at the outset, we have a different kind of president who does things in a different kind of way. And the truth of the matter is, I think that old saying that if you want a different outcome, sometimes you have to do things in a different kind of way. And so we may be seeing it here again. I don't want to get put the cart in front of the horse. We have a long way to go. This is, I think, just the first step. It's an important first step, but we have a long way to go in dealing with, as you described earlier, a very wily, very cunning group of individuals that serves in the leadership positions in North Korea.
Alberto Gonzales, former U.S. Attorney General under Bush 43. Judge, thank you very, very much. Good seeing you.
Thanks for having me, Neil.